This podcast is made possible in part by the Kent County Medical Society Alliance and WKTV Community Media.
Welcome to the Be Nice podcast, where we dive into conversations that help us recognize, understand, and take action when it comes to mental health and suicide prevention. I'm Christy Buck, your host. The Be Nice action plan is simple. Notice, invite, challenge, empower 4 steps that can change lives. Together, we'll share real-life stories, insights, and tools to break the stigma around mental health and inspire positive changes in our communities. Our guests for this episode are John and Gail Urso, who will share more about their son, Kevin, their loss, and their organization, Kevin's Song. I'm going to invite you to find out more, benice.org, and also tuning into this podcast. Today, we're going to bust another myth, and the myth being that suicide only affects certain people who are sad or young. That is so untrue. Suicide does not discriminate. It affects people of all ages, races, genders, income levels, and backgrounds. There is no single type of person who struggles, and believing otherwise creates distances and false reassurance. Statistically, suicide rates can differ amongst ages and genders. In 2023, men ages 25 to 44 years old had the second highest rate at 29.8 per 100,000, just behind men 65 years and older. For women, the highest rate was among those 45 to 64 years old at about 8.6 per 100,000. Another fact, many people who struggle look fine. That is a fact. From the outside, individuals may appear successful, loved, and engaged in their communities, humorous, and even the life of the party. Mental health struggles and emotional pain are often invisible and intentionally hidden. This myth delays help. Awareness saves lives. Notice, invite, challenge, and empower. Remember, the number one reason people do not seek help is stigma. Open conversations about illnesses, open conversations about resources and recovery lower the rates of suicide. So, today, I'm going to welcome our guests, Gail and John Urso. Gail and John Urso are the founders of Kevin's Song, a nonprofit organization dedicated to suicide prevention, suicide awareness, education, and healing. After the heartbreaking loss of their oldest son, Kevin, to suicide in 2013, Gail and John committed themselves to understanding the prevalence and causes of suicide and combating the stigma that often surrounds mental health struggles. Together, they launched Kevin's Song in 2013 to honor Kevin's memory and to provide resources, education, and community support for individuals and families affected by suicide. Under their leadership, Kevin's Song has become a recognized resource for suicide prevention through public education, conferences, partnerships, and outreach efforts in their region. I'm going to welcome to the podcast, Gail and John Urso. It's a privilege and honor to have you both here today. So starting right off, and we'll go back and forth and jump in when you feel like you want to chat.
Sarah.
Just jump in when you feel like you want to chat. You can take turns, however you're feeling. And first off, we're going to start with if you can share a little about Kevin and the journey that led you to start Kevin's Song.
Certainly. Thank you for having us. I think I'd like to start before Kevin's death, because this was such a significant event that when I tell the story of how Kevin's Song began, I really always like to go back to this. In February of 2013, I was invited to see a film that had been created by a woman named Judith Burdick, who is a psychotherapist in the Bloomfield Hills area. She's a grief counselor primarily, and she had created a film called Transforming Loss that dealt with, I think it was 5 or 6 different individuals or couples who had suffered a tragic loss. And so I went to this premiere and not really knowing what I was going to see, but it was a wonderful film. And it showed how people suffer just the most horrendous loss, but over a period of 5 years, found a way through it, dealt with their grief, continued to deal with their grief. But most of them did something significant. They started an organization. They set some personal goal. I remember one of the individuals, a dentist who had lost, a jeweler who had lost his whole family, had committed to doing something on every continent. Anyway, when the film ended, it was sad, but it was uplifting at the same time. When the film ended, I remember being in the Jewish Community Center in West Bloomfield. The people in the film were in the audience, and they all stood up, and they turned around and they waved, and everyone clapped for them. 1 month later, our son died by suicide. And I can't tell you the importance for me, of having seen that film, because even as I was on the plane flying down with John to Florida, where our son had died, I remember thinking, those people got through it.
Yeah.
I just kept telling myself that. So for me, it's important to start there. But that was just the beginning. Of course, after Kevin died, we were in shock.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about the myths, I mean, we knew Kevin had suffered from some depression over the years, but I don't think it had ever occurred to either of us that Kevin would end his life. Yeah. John, you can tell how we were in Florida just before he died.
In February 2013, we were in Florida visiting our son, Brian, and Kevin, who were both residing there, and we went to the Super Bowl. We saw the Super Bowl at a sports utility bar.
Yeah.
Kevin never seemed better, and it was a wonderful evening. It was a wonderful exchange, and of course, you come to learn that when someone who's contemplating ending their life by suicide, when they've made that decision, everything changes in that they've had a great weight lifted from their back, they've made the decision, and they're going to move forward. And I honestly believe that Kevin had made that decision probably 2 months before. Uh-huh. And so our interaction with him in February, which seemed to be so wonderful, was, and it was, but it was a sign that Kevin was tracking to end his life. And he did on the 13th,
23rd.
On the 23rd of March in 2013. And of course, that's a life-changing event. There's no change. There's no doubt about that. And what was so striking for, I believe, both Gail and I, was we knew nothing about suicide, about signs, about the epidemic of suicide. Yeah. And in fact, when everything happens for a reason, and there are no such things as coincidences. But in June, Newsweek had, I think it was Newsweek, had a front page,
the cover
sheet, the cover with a front page article, suicide.
The suicide epidemic.
The suicide epidemic.
It was called.
Yes.
And it was an online issue because during a brief time, Newsweek was not printing their magazine. But I'll never forget looking at that cover, the suicide epidemic. And as John said, we had no idea that suicide was common. I mean, for all we knew, Kevin was one of 6 people in the whole country.
Yes.
What we learned in that magazine was that 45,000 people that year in the United States would die by suicide.
Yeah.
And so the article opened up it answered questions, it raised more questions, but most importantly, I think what it said to us was, if we didn't know this, and we're fairly educated, informed people, if we didn't know this, there must be millions of other people that don't know this. And this goes back to that transforming loss. I think I had in the back of my mind somewhere, maybe there's something you can do. So that's when we put our heads together and came up with the concept of Kevin's song. And we invited our close friends who had been so wonderful, all really great people who with good ideas to form our first board of directors. And
one of the things that I always kind of smile about was that article featured a man by the name of Dr. Thomas Joyner. Dr. Joyner had lost his father to suicide.
Yes.
His practice and his study at
Florida State
University to learning more about suicide. And we incorporated Kevin's song in September of 2013. But the idea of having a conference came together probably 18 months later, and Gail, talk about audacious, decides that she's going to send an email to Dr. Thomas Joyner.
Yeah.
And invite him to be a speaker. And I think I may even say, Gail, you're out of your mind. This guy doesn't know us from a crowd of
Love it. Absolutely.
And lo and behold, within, I don't know,
a
few minutes.
I sent off this lengthy email to Dr. Thomas Joyner, whose email was easily available by going to Florida State University.
Yes.
And I sent it off thinking, in 2 weeks, maybe I'll hear from his assistant.
Yeah, yeah.
It was in probably less than an hour. I had this lovely email back from Dr. Joyner, and he had accepted our invitation.
Wow.
Our first keynote speaker. This year,
Yes.
at the conference, it's the 10th anniversary
Yeah.
of our conference, and we're honoring Dr. Joyner because we truly believe that if he hadn't said yes that first year, our conference may never have taken off the way it did. But once you have Dr. Joyner as your
Yes.
keynote speaker, I don't think anyone said no to us when
No.
we asked them to participate. So that was a really
He's been our keynote speaker, or he's been a speaker at every conference.
Yeah.
And so this 10th anniversary in a couple of weeks, January 22nd and 23rd, next week, he will be honored, as well he should be honored. Mm-hmm. He's done wonderful work in the area, as have a number of people who have come and talked at our conference. But it just goes to show you that sometimes there's an audacious side to all of this, and we always have said this has been higher powered, formed and moved forward. So
yeah, and the whole idea of Kevin's song was, as you said in your introduction, to educate. I mean, so that people would understand that suicide can happen to anybody. And that is the most, people still are so shocked when someone they know dies by suicide. And it's perfectly understandable, because one of the things we learned from Dr. Joyner, in fact, is that people who are contemplating suicide, who are in that place, do not want to be a burden to others. He calls it burdensomeness. They don't want to be a burden, so they don't want to share how terribly they're feeling, because they don't want to make other people feel badly and worry about them. So when we, over the years, we've had so many survivors participate in our conferences, or join Kevin's Song as volunteers, or participate in support groups. And I would say that 9 out of 10 were shocked by the death of their loved one. And, occasionally someone has been battling with depression for years, and, possibly has attempted before. But for the most part, people are very surprised and shaken by the fact that someone they knew and loved was contemplating. And it's not just families, it's work colleagues. They say that every suicide impacts over 100 people. Directly.
Yes.
So
I just wanted to add, you were in your introductory remarks, you were talking about suicide and the myth that suicide is, for young people who, so on and so forth. I had the privilege of speaking to a senior men's club. Actually, statistics are that suicide is the highest among men 65 years of age and older, because of loneliness. And loneliness sets in when men retire, they don't have colleagues that they work with day in and day out, and they've never developed the same kind of skill that women develop when they're raising children and they're having play groups and so on, of interacting and having friends. And so this loneliness factor is a big, big factor that that causes, or is the cause for men at that age bracket to I think, at least in the state of Michigan, they're higher than any other bracket.
Yeah, it is. It is. They make up 1/5. So 20% of deaths by suicide are completed by folks like 65 years and older, and especially men, right? We know that. I don't have to speak to you because you are very well educated. And that's what I appreciate. And what you all did was you took Kevin's death. And again, I don't look at it. It just happened to be that Gail went to go see this movie. I believe that there was a reason why she went to the movie. I'm just going to say that. I'm a believer that you took that information then and said, whoa, I could be a person in that movie now. I could be one of those 5 that had lost someone tragically, right? Unexpected. We also know that with any unexpected death comes, they call it complicated grief. And I'm sure you're familiar with that because you are left with so many questions. And oftentimes someone doesn't leave a note, or they didn't write what their thoughts and feelings were. A lot of times people will come across a journal or anything. And we don't, it's like, that's none of my business. Oftentimes when we talk about suicide, I don't ask those questions. I just know that survivors of a suicide are entering into a world that can be super lonely, a world that they don't understand what happened. They might become introverted themselves from talking about this. And so with your organization, what I love in the creation of the conference is how welcoming and inviting the conference is, first and foremost, to everyone, from the young kids to survivors to people that struggle themselves. And it lasts, 3 days? I mean...
Well, this year it's 2 days, but yes,
over 2 long days. Yes.
I just want to add, you're absolutely correct. And we have been called, I think this is something I feel so happy about, is that we've been called a conference with heart.
Yes.
And
yes.
But I want to emphasize that it's also very much for professionals, because what we have learned is that many, if not most, mental health professionals are not prepared to deal with suicide.
You are correct.
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
They've not been, as of, now this may be updated, there may be updated information, but as of a couple of years ago, Central Michigan University was the only college or university in the state of Michigan that required its graduating potential therapists, whether they were psychologists or social workers, to take a course that dealt with suicide. So most graduates have no training in suicide prevention,
right,
unless they seek it out on their own.
Yes.
Most clergy,
yes,
have no training. I mean, the list is long. Medical professionals.
Yep. They're looking for tools and resources also. And so they are going to flock where there is a conference where I love the fact that you don't shut the door on anyone to come either. I mean, you're going to vet, obviously. You know who's at the conference with their display booths, and it's open to everyone. It's not a you're better. Everyone needs to pick what's appropriate for their demographic, whether it be schools, whether it be companies. But the bottom line is everyone should be doing education for suicide prevention. Everyone should be learning, how can I prevent, whether it be through the Be Nice action plan, which is easy and utilized by many schools. Many companies now in the healthcare system, they're using our program as their zero suicide, universal suicide prevention program. So across a whole entire company. But that's what I love, again, is everyone is given the opportunity, because I hear from you both that you're believers in everybody needs to be in that upstream space where you're learning more about preventing, right? And prevention starts by talking about it. Bottom line is we can't be afraid to say the word. We've been doing, I think you would love to see what we've been doing, but we are partnering with many churches now where we're going in, have these conversations. You've got the one-on-one ability to ask someone, are you thinking of suicide?
Yes.
So I love that part about the conference. And I love how in 2013, I just can't believe everything that happened, y'all, during that year of going down and seeing Kevin, you going to the movie, and then suddenly you faced the loss of your son, and you gather your neighbors together. Oh, come on. Simply amazing, a grassroots effort of taking these people that you love and say, we're going to do this and we need your help.
And thank you for that. When I look back on it, it does feel amazing.
Yeah.
But I also remember what the grief felt like that first year, which was almost debilitating. I mean, I think, so when I'm with people who have suffered a recent loss, I completely identify with the early stages of not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to eat, not being able to do anything. So somehow this mission we came up with, I think was tremendously helpful in helping us move forward. I mean, I look back now and I'm not really sure how we did it, but we did. And
That's what I was saying about being higher powered.
yeah,
Something was moving us
and
into the, and we're very thankful for that.
we had so much support. I mean, oftentimes, I know when we talk about grief and loss, you look for your support systems. We just had amazing support.
Yeah.
And there was never the experience of not being able to talk about what had happened. I mean, most of our closest friends had known Kevin since he was born.
Yeah.
So they suffered the loss as well. But I'm always so sad when I'm in a support group and I hear someone say, I can't talk to anyone.
Yeah.
Even family. There are two words that I think we have to recognize are still part of the suicide loss picture, sadly. One is shame and one is guilt. That there shouldn't be either, but because society is still working to understand that, what suicide is, there's still shame because of people who don't understand. And I think the most common feeling that I have heard coming from survivors is guilt. Like, how did I not know? What did I not see? And
What did I miss?
Yes. Yeah, restopping, going through everything and looking for that thing that they missed. Not knowing.
I mean, that's why, we miss things. We know we miss things. I mean, just an example, Kevin had lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was a sign of depression. And had I known then what I know now, maybe I could have addressed it and we could have intervened somehow, but we did not know. And most people don't know. And that's why we're doing what we can to help people know what the signs are, but also know that it's important to check in with people.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Amen. Exactly.
How are you doing?
You got it.
Yeah.
I love it. And we often hear after people connect with us too, survivors, how can I get involved? What can I do? What they love most is the simplicity of notice, invite, challenge, empower. And it's just, we all can notice. We can notice good, right? And we need to toss out as much good as we can also. But then we need to stop and notice those differences and not hesitate to have that conversation eye to eye, right? Looking at that person. We've heard it over and over again. I know you both have too. But it works. And it's amazing when all of a sudden this breakthrough conversation, then being able to help them find those good resources, I've got family today. They are both going to see new clinicians. It's a hard time of year, January, even though suicide rates are incredibly high, and this too, it's really those spring months of March, April, May, right? And June is high. Conversations need to start now, so we're doing some TV gigs right now, but it's about being ready all the time, because you never know what somebody is contemplating, what they are going through. It's just so hidden, and I love when we can have open conversations about thoughts, feelings, and actions with no embarrassment and shame from the individual that might be going through that. Or maybe it's a family not being ashamed to say, gosh, your son, Jacob, seems so different. Jacob's lost a lot of weight, and all of a sudden it puts that contemplation in a parent's mind of, what, you're kind of right. Is there anything going on right now? But I'm really looking forward to seeing you both on Thursday. Hopefully the weather agrees with me coming over from West Michigan. Oftentimes I'm like, oh, geez, the weather. But we're looking forward to being there and Be Nice having a table. Kevin's song is the Suicide Prevention Education Summit, January 22, 23 at St. John's Resort, which is absolutely beautiful in Plymouth. I love St. John's Resort. The only time I ever saw it was when I came to Kevin's song, and that in general makes you feel good and cozy. In conclusion, is there anything else you want to say about Kevin and maybe about where you see the future? What's it holding?
Well, could I just put a plug in for Be Nice?
Obviously.
Another board member and I went to Lands Cruise North High School, where 400 students had gathered to do a walk. I'm standing at the back of the auditorium and at Lands Cruise, and they all, all of the students stand up to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and all of a sudden I had this feeling like, there is hope that our future with these young people could be brighter. So we decided to make an effort to go to as many high schools as possible.
Love it.
To talk about suicide prevention and suicide awareness and asking questions and so forth. And UD Jesuit is coming up to do a walk, and lo and behold, Be Nice, you're doing something very exciting there in February. And I was talking to the counselor, Jim Hassett, and he was telling me all about what you were doing. So all I can say is good going. I think we need to address this issue at the school levels so that these students become sensitive, aware, and can ask friends, are you okay?
Absolutely.
Would you ever think of doing something to hurt yourself? So anyway, that's my plug.
Absolutely. I thank you so much. Now I'm going to remember, that there's an availability of you to come on in, because we do have 41 schools on the east side of the state and another 80-some over in West Michigan, some in Texas. So, and you would be really excited. We formed an allegiance, a partnership with the Jacksonville Jaguars, where they are implementing the Be Nice Action Plan as part of their wellness program on their corporate side. All of a sudden, I hate to say it, but I became quite a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, all the way towards rooting them on all Sunday, but seeing that they're on the right track. They've got good right going on. And so hopefully, Urso family, we're going to be able to implement the program with those players next year. So I thank you so much. I respect both of you so much, and being so vulnerable to talk about Kevin, and that in itself can bring back those feelings of where I was in 2013 upon one of the biggest losses of your lives. So again, I thank you. I'm going to sign out I want to remind everybody, please check out Kevin's song in your local community. Get a hold of their executive director, see how you can get involved with their organization also. I want to thank everyone for listening to today's episode. I am thrilled. I've got chills up and down. I think together we busted a harmful myth. And a severe and persistent mental illness is there. We need to be aware. We need to follow that Be Nice action plan. If today's episode resonated and you yourself are struggling, or someone, there are resources. Please know that a call to 988, just a brief conversation, can save a life. And in addition, a text to 741-741 or 988. Take the time, learn the pledge, and for right now, be nice.
This podcast is made possible in part by the Kent County Medical Society Alliance and WKTV Community Media.